how hard do you want me to drive it? And he said, I want to win this race. He said, the tachometer says 7,000. He said, if you wind it to 7,000, do whatever it takes to win the race. And I said, okay, your car. And driving around afterwards after talking to the guy, and Walt said, don't you ever drive my car like that again. I trusted you with my car. I didn't think you'd beat on it like that.
You wanted to win.
You wanted to win? You picked the right driver.
Well, the money you just saved, you should have bought some traction for it. But
I ended up lying to my wife about buying a dual exhaust conversion kit from J.C. Whitney to put duals on it. I didn't have the money to go to a muffler shop and have a set of duals put on it. I'm in the finals, and this guy is, he actually yanked the front
Dry
wheels.
hopping that thing.
I'm dry hopping it. And this was one of those junior stockers that Bill Jenkins probably had a hand in or something like that.
we are talking about the 69 Zipper that the old man ended up picking up. Now, if you saw the last one, it was the 69 Chevelle SS 396 375 car. Sold that one. And dad and mom ended up getting married at that point, so they got rid of that. And in 70, the old man picked up a Hugger Orange 69Z. And just to give you guys a little bit in the sense of the wives' tale, that 69 Zippers were butt kickers, and man, those things would just tear up the streets, and this and this and this. Well, going from a 375 car to a 290 horse 302. Now, granted, they spun great, but they weren't butt kickers. And, that's one of the things that the old man has always told me about, where it was like, well, your experience picking it up, and then once you finally got the car, how it kind of went from there.
Let me think. Picked the car up.
Was it another Berger car?
The car was actually at Berger Chevrolet when I bought my 69 Chevelle. And so it must have been sold right around that same time. I actually looked at that car when we were looking at Chevelles, but I just couldn't afford it at that time. And so we were looking for a car. I find this at a sell it yourself lot, and the price was like $24.50. And the car must have stickered for close to $4,000. Picked it up. We were doing a lot of driving. We were both in college, and we were both working at the time. So I was driving quite a ways out of town to college, and then on the other side of town to go to work. Again, lots of miles on the car. It was not fast. I wouldn't race anybody with a stock 69Z, even with the 373 gears. I took the transverse muffler off it and then just put a couple of turn downs on it like I did on the Chevelle. I don't think I did much. It had cowl induction air cleaner on it, and
You took that off.
I don't
and
know
basically
why
put
I
on
took that
the
off. So I put on that fly eye. That's what we used to call
velocity
it.
stack thing.
Yeah. And actually sprayed the master cylinder and the brake booster black. I don't know why I did that. Put a set of gauges underneath it, and not a lot to tell about as far as the car goes. I just kept it clean, and it just ate gas. And I don't know what else.
Following out plugs like crazy. Well, you had 2 weeks, and you'd have to change plugs, and
it just wasn't the fun car that I thought it would be. I just kept it clean, drove it, and again, the gas mileage was so terrible that it was just killing me. So
the Chevelle actually got better gas mileage than what the Zipper did.
I'm not saying that.
Not because of your foot. I mean,
No.
if you actually were driving them normal, the Chevelle actually didn't go through plugs as much. Probably did.
I had
a
no
little
plug
better.
problems with the Chevelle, but the Zipper was just a little bit fussy. If I had it to do over again, I probably would have put one set hotter spark plugs in it because of the driving. But again, I was driving long distance to go to college outside of town, so it was like a 50-50 deal. And we didn't really have a lot of money in those days, and so I just finally just sold the thing. I sold it to a guy that had just come back from Vietnam, and I don't remember what I sold it for, but I remember I made some money on it. And
Well, there was enough there to where you liked the car enough to where we ended up, like the Chevelle. I'll show you guys pictures later on of the 2.0 version of the Chevelle when I was a kid, and then it was the Camaro where it was the same thing, where it was the 2.0 version of the Camaro.
Yes.
Well, with the Camaro, like we said with the Chevelle, you did a 4.25 horse 427, and it was always that thought of, if I had the money back in 1970, 69 and all that, this is what I wish I would have done. So with the Camaro, we ended up throwing a 406 in that thing, small
Yes.
block, decorated it like it was a 302, and then it was a fun car. Then it actually got up and boogied and, you know, did what you would expect a Zipper to do. We'll show you that later on in some, you know, later on episodes and all that stuff. We'll do a little thing on each of those cars as well. But I mean, that thing wasn't even worth drag race. I just remember you going, I really liked the look of it. It was cool, you know, had the Endura bumper on it and all that stuff. But at the moment you drive it, it was just kind of, But what was,
It was disappointing.
well, Walt with the houndstooth interior, who'd you end up racing with? Walt had a Hutter Orange Zipper, am I right? And then
Yeah.
was it a white vinyl top?
White vinyl top and a white interior.
Yeah, white houndstooth interior. So I mean, this thing definitely had to pop. But that was same 373s, same car, but just a white vinyl top, white interior. But who'd you end up? Because he wanted you to race somebody because you could drive a stick better than him.
It was late at night. Walt was a good friend of mine. He talked his way into some kind of a race. And he said, Denny, well, we get halfway out there. And he goes, Denny, why don't you do the driving? And I just said, how hard do you want me to drive it? And he said, I want to win this race. He said, the tachometer says 7,000. He said, if you wind it to 7,000, do whatever it takes to win the race. And I said,
Okay.
Your car. And Scotty already knows this. I've been practicing power shifting for years. So I always
Gotta
shifted
get
with
that leg up there.
I always
Get that
shifted
leg
with
up
my
there.
foot flat to shut up. Foot flat to the floor. So we get to wherever we were going. Walt was in the car with me, and I don't remember who we raced, honestly.
But you let her have it.
I wound it out, let her have it, spun the tires, and I shifted. I'm not sure it may have been 65 or 6,800, but I ripped it into second gear so hard, it didn't have traction bars. I thought we were going to rip the rear end right out of the car. It hopped and everything. And I just stayed with it. Seems to me we won. It was a long time ago. Seems to me we won. And then, we're driving around afterwards after talking to the guy, and Walt said, don't you ever drive my car like that again. I trusted you with my car. I didn't think you'd beat on it like that.
You wanted to win.
You wanted to win? You picked the right driver.
Well, the money you just saved, you should have bought some traction bars. But the next one was the actual car that you finally, next time you made it down to the track, was this 67 Nova SS 283 car. And pictures of this car, you guys will see these pictures, but pictures of this car, I've always had a soft spot for 66 and 67 Novas, and especially marina blue with all the chrome and all the stainless on them. It's like in my heart with like the same as like a really nice 55 with all the chrome and stainless. They're just such a beautifully built, shaped car. I love them. Now don't get me wrong, I like 68 through 72 Novas. I mean, they're really cool, but just something about a 6 and a 7 in particular, just because of the way that the grille blends into the headlight buckets and all that, it all looks like one piece.
Mint car. It had a lot of miles on it. I don't remember if I told you that or not, but it had probably 70 or 80,000 miles on it, but it was absolutely perfect. No, rust-free.
Now, to those guys, they hear 70, 80,000 miles. They're probably looking at that going, 70, 80,000 miles? That's hardly getting into it. 70 to 80,000 miles. And I mean, my first cars that I had a 70 Nova, I had the 72 El Camino. I mean, I grew up wanting old cars, so when I could get my license, it was like, hey, I want to get into old cars. If you had an old car, let's just say early 70s, we'll just say that, early 70s, anything that was like that style carbureted V8, if you hit 100,000 miles, that was like hitting 200,000 or 250,000 miles
Today.
on something today.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were like 60, 70,000 miles, that motor needed to be rebuilt just from the oils and all that stuff. So when he's saying, 70, 80,000 miles, and some of you out there might be like, oh, that's hardly anything. That is a lot of miles.
Well, the car was probably 5 years old at the time, so whoever drove it must have driven it, I'm making this up, 15,000 miles a year,
yeah.
something like that.
Well, that was what, 283 two-barrel single exhaust,
Single exhaust.
just an SS package.
I'm sure it wasn't even a Muncie, it was probably just a Saginaw. It had stock shifter in it. Of course, I had to modify it a little bit. I'm pretty sure I put an advance kit in it because those were like $4 in those days, and just had fresh plugs in it.
The J.C. Whitney dual exhaust looking.
All I can say now is I've had Hemi cars and fuel injected Corvettes and stuff, but in those days, I ended up lying to my wife about buying a dual exhaust conversion kit from J.C. Whitney to put duals on it. I didn't have the money to go to a muffler shop and have a set of duals put on it. So I did this at a gas station that let me work on cars down there, put it up on the hoist. It's not embarrassing now, but I really was broke. I also put a set of ET Super wheels on it, and they were about $100 for 4 of them in those days. I took the stock tires, turned the white walls in.
I think Mom was more angry that you bought the wheels because that was like rent money.
Well, that was more than rent money. I didn't tell her for a while, and she was really, really mad at me. I just, you either got it or you don't. You have that desire, and I just did it and didn't tell her about it, and well, she was mad, but that's okay.
So now with these mind-blistering, tire-spinning modifications of the ET mags and the J.C. Whitney, now it was still single exhaust. All it did was it came out of the single and then split into like
No, it was true dual.
Was it true dual?
Yeah, it was a true dual.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the single split into it like the IROCs and all that type of stuff.
True dual.
So true dual. So 2-barrel, true dual exhaust. You made the makeshift traction bars.
Yeah.
So you
I
built those.
forgot.
Yeah, like I say, you ended up building those at the shop. So we ended up making a set of traction bars so they would work on that. So and you did the 327 badging.
I put 327 badges on it, and remind me about another story about some LS6 guys. I built the traction bars, didn't know how, and I knew how to weld, but I didn't know just how sturdy they had to be. So I went out and I wasn't power shifting all over the place, but I did it one day and I broke the weld on the traction bars. And so I remember having to bolster them up a little bit because it really wanted to hop around. I'm sure it had like a 308 rear end in it. It was nothing, it wasn't dangerous at all. It was just a quick little car for what it was.
283 2-barrel.
We took it down and raced it down at
Friday night at US 131 Dragway.
Probably 2 or 3 years after the Chevelle. And so I was classified N, Nancy stock. And I remember waiting in line. There must have been some kind of a meet there, and it was getting dark, and she was like, are we ever going to race tonight? So I believe I made one time trial run. I don't remember any of my times. If I made 2 runs.
I was going to say, I thought you said that thing went 15s. It was like a 1530 or a 1540 where it was like.
I don't think it was that quick.
I remember you telling me it was like 15s, and it was just like, wow, that thing was slow.
I get up from my run, and the guy next to me was in I'm pretty sure it was a 56 Chevy, either a wagon or a running end stock.
Now, this is finals. This is an actual race because the trophy's on top of the car.
Yeah, it was a trophy.
So that part you might have forgotten. He ended up doing time trials and then made it through his rounds, went through quarters, went through semifinals. Yeah. This is the finals.
So I'm in the finals, and this guy is he actually yanked the front
dry
wheels.
Hopping that thing.
Dry hopping it. And this was one of those junior stockers that Bill Jenkins probably had a hand in or something like that. And so I figured, maybe he'll goof up. And we both get up to the line. I can't even hear my engine running. I didn't have a tach in the car. I couldn't hear it running, so I'm kind of guessing, and the guy red lights on me. So I ran my 1550 or 15 something, and I won a trophy down there. I was eliminator and end stock that night. So there's a nice picture. We went to her parents' cottage at the lake, and there's a nice picture with the trophy on top of the car that I'm so glad I took. Because for years I'd forgotten about certain pictures, but I'm so glad I took a picture of that. And Scott will show you pictures of the car. The car was immaculate. I mean, it was dent-free, rust-free.
We'd love to get our hands on now to turn into,
You'll see it from the pictures.
To turn a 327, 350
It was just a
horse.
beautiful car.
But one of the things that we've always told people was, a lot of guys will talk about drag racing, and it's like, I don't have a fast enough car. You know, and they'll sit there and I don't have a quick enough car, or I don't have this, and I can't do that, and blah, 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 blah. You can have a good time. I mean, this is one of those things where, you know, well, yeah, if I had a Nova like that, I'd race it. Well, back in that time, it was a nothing car. It was a 283, two-barrel, mid 15-second car, which was nothing. But, you know, you had a blast. You won your trophy. You ended up, you know, beating somebody out. And you can still have a good time. It's the point of, like, get your butt down to the track and go race. Go race. Go have a good time. Slow cars normally do very, very well. So don't get discouraged if you have something slow. Go out to the track. Go have fun. Go race. You know, enjoy yourselves. Start making some stories of your own, you know, that you can show your kids or race with your kids or anything like that. Start, you know, if it's something that you've wanted to try, go do it. Go have fun. You know, that's the point of some of this. Gretzky said it the best. You fail 100% of your shots of the shots you don't take. So take a shot, give it a try. So anyways, hope you guys like this one. We're gonna go through and we always got more to show you guys. We got, oh gosh, street rods and T-buckets and other races and stuff like that. And we'll even get into some of the ones that when me and the old man first started racing each other, what cars did we have when we started doing that? The original purple car, Scrappy, that I used to drag race. And we'll show you guys those cars. But hit us down in the comments if you're enjoying it and you're liking everything that's going on. And if you want to see some of the little bit wilder stuff, you know, of what we were racing, like what I was just saying, the old original cars of what we consider the originals of what started us racing each other, we'll start putting some of that stuff up. So, till we meet again, my friends, we'll catch you on the next one.
Adios.